Welcome again. This is Jen, the Liberty Lion, and this is another video under state. So if you're looking for anything that I have on states, then you can look at the title of the video, and anything that begins with the word state is a recent upload under the heading of state, and so you know right away that the topic of the video is concerning the state. This is from the House of Representatives, July 19th, 1867, page 235. I only have this page, so if you would like to go and search for this and find the original text from a website, because it's 1867, you can probably find it on memory.loc.gov. I will post this page on archive and share the link in the description. So it's talking here about the state and what is a state and what is a legal state and what is an illegal state, and who has the right to form a legal state and who has a right to deem a state illegal. So some of the men in Congress knew what was going on was wrong, and so they were questioning what was happening. And because we have a representative government by majority rule, sometimes the only way you can get your information out is to state it on the floor and have it entered into the public record, because your no vote won't make any impact because you're outvoted. So it says here, a singular contradiction is apparent here. Congress declares these local state governments to be illegal governments, and then provides that these illegal governments should be carried on by federal officers who are to perform the very duties imposed on its own officers by this illegal state authority. It certainly would be a novel spectacle if Congress should attempt to carry on a legal state government by the agency of its own officers. Is yet more strange that Congress attempts to sustain and carry on an illegal state government by the same federal agency. So in America, you have independent states which created a union, and that union was the federal government. It was instituted for defense or military purposes. The union was allowed to create states inside states, in which Eisenhower in the committee report during his administration referred to as islands in the state. So when the Constitution was written, the federal government, according to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, was limited to the seat of government and the places it purchased to build forts. The types of forts were, they were authorized to build posts, and the types of posts they were authorized to build were forts, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. In order to not just build the forts, they had to be able to make laws for the forts. So they had to first purchase the lands, according to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, and then they had to acquire jurisdiction from the state. In other words, they had to ask the state not only to purchase the land and then purchase the land, but then they had to ask the state to give it the power to make laws on those lands, which is jurisdiction, legislative authority. And if you look at Article 1, Section 1 of the Constitution, it says that Congress has the power to make the laws or legislate for the United States, not the United States of America, not the independent states, just the United States, which are the seat of government and the military posts. So he's saying here that what Lincoln did was he went in and he deemed the government created by the people, which is the real government, the true government, declared them illegal, took them over, instituted his own federal officers to do the same thing that was being done before he took them over, and then, by the mere fact that he took them over, made them legal. So what he did was he took the officers off the federal lands where they were supposed to stay, put them into the state capitals, and took over the legislative body of the state capitals that were instituted by the people of that state. And that's what Mr. Cowan was explaining. He was explaining, in my previous video, I went over the Congressional Globe record, which is a congressional record from 1867, where Mr. Cowan was asking the president, President Lincoln, basically what the hell he thought he was doing, because he was sending people in to take over the state. So he's saying, what is a state? Is it something made by Congress, or is it something made by the people of the state? Because in America, we have sovereignty from the bottom up, or from the people up to the government. We have the people are sovereign, and they issue some sovereignty to some people to create a legislative body. And that is their government for that state. They declare their own government for themselves. That legislative body then created a union between all the states together, and that was in the Articles of Confederation. And in Article 2, it states that the states shall be, are, and shall remain free, sovereign, and independent. The federal system within the Articles of Confederation wasn't quite good enough, so they wrote a constitution. The Constitution is, according to the Committee of Detail who wrote the Constitution was, in fact, an amendment to the Articles of Confederation. That amendment was to give the federal government very strict and lined out powers of what they could do at the seat of government and the places they purchased, which was to build forts and then do certain things on those forts for the military officers, the commissioned officers who are members of the federal government, called citizens of the United States. So what Lincoln did was he came in and he took his federal officers that were stationed on the federal lands. He used the Civil War and slavery as his method of manipulation, took them off the federal lands, put them into the state governments, calling the state governments that the people created, the sovereign people created for themselves, took them over by military force, saying that they were illegal, and after he took them over, said now they're legal. So what this guy is saying is it doesn't make any sense what Lincoln did, that he called them illegal, took them over, and the fact that he took them over made them legal. So now that I've read it to you and explained it to you, let me read it to you again. A singular contradiction is apparent here. Congress declares these local state governments to be illegal governments, and then provides that these illegal governments shall be carried on by federal officers. Federal officers are commissioned officers who are members of the federal government, who are commissioned. They are citizens of the United States because they are commissioned, and they're military officers. After 7, 9, or 14 years, they can serve at the seat of government. The federal officers who are to perform the very duties imposed on its own officers by this illegal state authority. So he's saying that the federal people are going to come in, take over the government created by the people of the state, because he says that they're illegal. But once he takes them over using military force, he makes it legal, which is an act outside the Constitution and outside any constitutional office, which means it was done without power, without the power to act, making it a void act, not voidable in a court. You don't have to go to court to have it voided. It's void. It certainly would be a novel spectacle if Congress could attempt to carry on a legal state government by the agency of its own officers. It is yet more strange that Congress attempts to sustain and carry on an illegal state government by the same federal agency. So he's saying if it's deemed illegal, taking it over doesn't make it legal. It's still illegal. If it's legal, then we don't need Congress to come in and take it over because it's legal. So that's why it's a spectacle, and it's a contradiction, and it's apparent. Okay, so July 19th, 1867, House of Representatives. You can read this. All you have to do if you want to find something that I have that I don't have a direct link to is take a section, a few sentences or whatever, type it into your Google search bar, and most likely something comes up and it'll show you what this is from. Okay, so you can go and read all this if you want. I've posted it on archive.org. I'll provide a link. Please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. And if you like my videos on state, I'll be continuing to post everything I have of any significance under the heading state. So when you're looking through the videos, just look for the word state, and I'll continue posting stuff. I've done a couple of things and I'll continue with that. So please like, share, subscribe, make a comment. I'll see you in the next video.